During the will reading, my son-in-law smirked and said, "Don't expect a penny of your daughter's fortune." Moments later, the attorney read my name and his face turned the color of chalk. I didn't raise my voice. I just took notes. That was the moment everything shifted. The porch light flickered against the damp air as twilight sank over my Charleston home. I remember the exact minute because the wall clock, 3 minutes slow for 20 years, clicked once before the phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but when I did, a voice too calm to belong to tragedy said, "Miss War Langston, I'm calling from St. Luke's Medical Center. I'm afraid your daughter, Rhea, has passed." The words didn't fit together. Passed? Where? Through what door? I pressed the phone harder to my ear. "Say that again, honey," I whispered, the way older Southern women speak when we're holding ourselves together with manners. The voice continued, "Cardiac event, time of death, 5:43 p.m. Ma'am." The clinical rhythm of those syllables cut through me. I looked at Rhea's graduation photo on the mantel, her head tilted, laughing, sunlight on her cheek. The air conditioner clicked on. The hum mocked the silence between us. My knees weakened, but habit took over. I reached for my yellow legal pad, the one I used when my husband died, and started a list. Flights, funeral homes, contact numbers. Under it, I wrote, "Call Caspian Myers." My hand shook, but the ink was steady. "Widowhood trains you to move through shock with formality." I folded Rhea's last postcard. "Love you, Mama. See you soon." And tucked it into my wallet like armor. I called Caspian's number. Voicemail, his voice smooth, salesman polished. "Leave your message and I'll circle back." I hung up, called again, still voicemail. "All right now," I muttered to myself. "Handle what you can reach." I checked emails. No flight plans, no family message, just a cascade of auto responses and sympathy templates. I prayed quietly. Not for miracles, just for discipline. Lord, hold my mind, hold my mouth. Then came the email. Subject line simple. Service notice. I opened it, saw family only, and scrolled through a guest list. My name wasn't there. I read it twice. A second email followed, accidentally copied to me, per Caspian Myers. "We will keep it intimate." My chest went hot, then still. I whispered, "Noted." That's what we say when rage must wear pearls. I replied, "I am her mother." Minutes later, an automatic response pinged. "We'll review with the family." The air turned heavy. I put on the kettle. The whistle rose sharp, nearly human. I let it scream until the pot ran dry. I called Verena Myers-Blythe, Caspian's mother. Her voice came bright, then cooled when she realized who I was. "Eudora, dear, we're keeping things simple," I said softly. "Simple has room for a mother, Verena." She hesitated, then slid into polished phrases. Logistics. Capacity. Rhea wanted privacy. I didn't argue. "I'll be there," I told her. Slow, final. The kind of tone that closes doors politely. After we hung up, I started packing. 2 black dresses, one for the service, one in case lawyers got involved. I placed Rhea's voicemail on speaker, her laughter from last summer, ocean wind behind her voice, and let it fill the room like oxygen. Neighbors began to arrive in quiet procession. Mr. Harlan left a casserole on my porch without knocking. Sister Louise texted, "They left you off the list. Fly with a full belly." I wrote Rhea a note. "I'm coming, baby," and slid it into my Bible. I twisted the ring she'd given me 3 times, a habit she teased me for. The night deepened, thunder stitched across the sky. My phone buzzed again, an auto forward from a church aide I'd never met. A screenshot, calendar marked, family only confirmed, Remove E. Langston. Timestamp tonight. I sat very still. All right then, I said to the empty room. I opened a new page on my pad and wrote names, dates, screenshots. The rain began to fall steady and sure. I zipped my bag, turned off the lamp, and left the hallway light glowing. Stepping onto the porch, I forwarded the image to myself and whispered, "See you in California, baby." Then I hit send. The plane touched down through a haze the color of weak coffee. I watched the hills outside Los Angeles blur under the morning light, their edges sharp as old bones. My body ached from the red-eye flight, knees stiff and fingers swollen, but I reminded myself, head up, Eudora. The young TSA agent called. "Shoes in the bin, sweetheart." That word, sweetheart, made me feel like a fragile relic. I slipped off my flats anyway and smiled. "Thank you, baby." The flight attendant gave me an extra cup of water. "You okay, Ms. Langston?" she asked softly. "Baby, I'm standing," I replied, the way my mother used to say when strength was the only thing she could afford, at baggage claim. I wrote down times on my yellow pad. A woman driving my Uber told me about losing her aunt to COVID. "One step at a time, Mama," she said. I tucked that line into my heart. By 10, I stood before a gate taller than my house. The Myers estate shimmered behind it, hedges like walls, a fountain whispering money. I pressed the intercom. "This is Eudora Langston, Ria's mother." A pause. Then a neutral tone answered, "Hold, please." Another voice came on, colder. "Private resident, please coordinate through management," I said slowly. "I'm here to discuss my daughter's arrangements." The gate creaked open 3 feet, just enough to remind me of my place. A guard waved me toward the service entrance. I parked, noted his badge initials, snapped a photo of the sign. "Paper trail starts here," I murmured. Inside. The house smelled of lavender and fresh paint. Verena Myers Blythe glided down the stairs, pearls at her throat, a can of LaCroix in hand. "Ms. Langston," she said, offering a polite smile. "Thank you for coming." No hug. No mention of sorrow. Caspian appeared next, gym clothes spotless, smartwatch buzzing. "Ms. Langston," he said, businesslike. "Thank you for coming on short notice." He spoke of logistics, privacy, brand alignment. My daughter was gone, and he was managing optics. "I will be at my daughter's service." I told him evenly. "It's family only." He replied. "I brought her into this world," I said, meeting his eyes. He smiled, thin and smug. "Then you'll understand. Don't expect a penny of your daughter's $35 million. The room went quiet. Verena studied my face, waiting for me to crack. I didn't. I set down my tote. "This isn't about money. It's about respect." He gestured toward the door as if I were late for an appointment. "Service is at 10. Limited seating." I repeated his words, wrote them in ink. That sound, the click of the pen, cut through his politeness. I walked out with my back straight, each step a lesson in restraint. Verena followed. "Ms. Langston, this is hard for all of us," she murmured. I gave the kind of answer church mothers use when they see through a lie. She suggested I sit near the back to keep the focus on Ria's memory. Translation: disappear quietly. "I'll need the funeral home's contact," I said. She handed me a card, no name, just a number. I photographed it, her polished nails glinting in the marble. At the side door, a housekeeper named Maria held it open. "Thank you, Maria," I said. Real people deserve their names spoken. Outside, I recorded a voice memo, time, place, quotes. Memory wasn't enough anymore. I wanted proof. By afternoon, I was in a small Pasadena motel, its carpet older than me. The desk clerk gave me tea bags for the nerves. I spread my yellow pad, lined up receipts, photos, and the card. My phone buzzed, an email from Atticus Vale. Regarding Rhea Myers. Confidential. He asked to verify my identity and warned, please avoid financial discussions with Mr. Myers. A voicemail followed, southern drawl, steady as a hymn. Ms. Moy Langston, there may be a second estate document. If you permit, I'll meet you tomorrow. I typed a brief reply, attached my ID, and sent it to him, BCC'd to my church email for safety. I whispered, we move with proof. Then I listed tomorrow's steps. Call the funeral director, confirm the program, locate Rhea's office. Her personal items could hold truths money couldn't bury. Before sunset, I rode past Rhea's bungalow. The wind chimes from Charleston rang softly, a sound I hadn't heard since she left home. I took a photo from the curb, proof she still existed somewhere that wasn't a lawyer's file. A neighbor said, "You her mama? She was kind." I nodded. Yes, baby, she was. Back at the motel. My phone blinked. A new email from Caspian's lawyers. Ms. Langston is not an authorized party for asset matters. I took a screenshot and forwarded it to Atticus. Then, unexpectedly, I smiled. That small, knowing smile women wear when they realize the game's about to turn. I switched off the lamp, slid my yellow pad under my pillow, and let the hum of the air conditioner sing me into planning. The sun was barely up when I walked into a quiet cafe on Colorado Boulevard, the kind with chipped mugs and a waitress who called everyone darlin'. Atticus Vale was already there, gray suit, silver hair, calm eyes that had seen too many griefs. His handshake was steady, his condolences brief but real. I buried my sister 5 years ago, he said softly, and that told me everything I needed about him. He verified my ID, asked 2 questions Rhea had set for security years ago. Your childhood street and your favorite hymn? I answered without shaking. He nodded, satisfied. Then he unfolded a folder. Rhea set up a trust, he explained, separate from marital property. Some assets were sealed under her name only. My throat tightened, but I stayed still. He warned that Caspian would push image management, his polite term for rewriting history. Keep all contact in writing, Mrs. Langston. Never let them speak off record, I said. Baby, I learned that lesson before you were born. He smiled slightly, slid me a checklist, program draft, speaker list, proof of acknowledgement. I signed his engagement letter, slow and deliberate. He promised. I'll file preservation notices before noon. I showed him the screenshot I'd saved. Family only confirmed. Remove E. Langston. The timestamp glowed like a bruise. He leaned in, scanned metadata. That's not a mistake, he said. That's intent. He dictated an email right there. I typed, requesting written confirmation of inclusion and acknowledgement as mother of the deceased. He added a legal citation at the end, California Health and Safety Code lines I couldn't pronounce but loved the sound of. I attached the screenshot, CC'd the church, and pressed send. Time? He asked. 10:14, I said, writing it in ink. My paper trail was starting to look like armor. At noon, I stepped into the funeral home, cool air, lilies, and a director whose smile flickered when he saw my folder. I'd like the order of service, I said. He printed one. Family remarks, Verena Myers Blythe. I scanned it. And where's the mother? He began mumbling about limited capacity. I laid the screenshot flat on his mahogany desk. His throat worked as he read it. Ma'am, there were edits. From whom? I asked. His eyes dropped. Mr. Myers' office. That was enough. Please email both versions today. He nodded quickly. I recorded his promise on my pad, date and time, then asked again, "You'll send both?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good." When he handed me tissues, I declined. Keep them for someone who cries. I walked out into California sunlight, called Atticus. "They removed me intentionally," I said. "We have verbal confirmation." His tone sharpened. "You did perfectly, Mill Langston. Forward what you have." I sent him the photo of the screen's file log, his voice calm as paper. "That's admissible evidence." I hung up, my hands steady as stone. At the church office, the air smelled of lemon polish and faint guilt. The coordinator looked up, pasted on her smile. "We're reviewing details with the family," she began. "There are 2 families," I said, quiet but clear. "Theirs and mine." Her fingers fluttered over her keyboard. She printed a slip. "Mother of the deceased, reserve back pew seat." I circled the words with my pen. "Back pew, huh?" "It's temporary," she said quickly. "Everything temporary becomes permanent if you don't fix it." I murmured. I asked her to escalate. She nodded, uneasy. I thanked her anyway. Courtesy costs nothing. It just sounds like thunder when used right. Back in my motel room, Atticus's text came through. Preservation letter filed, church, funeral home, council notified. Almost immediately, an email from Caspian's lawyers followed. "Please refrain from contacting vendors directly." I stared at the screen, then typed, "Please put any restrictions concerning the mother of the deceased in writing with statutory basis." I hit send and whispered, "Paper first, feelings later." My phone buzzed again, Verina's name flashing across the screen. Her message was short. "Private conversation before tomorrow?" I looked at the clock, then typed, "Name the place." I reached the courtyard 5 minutes early, notebook tucked under my arm like scripture. The tables gleamed under a thin shade, and the waiter's name tag read, Elias. I wrote it down, Habit. Verena Myers-Blythe swept in exactly on time, all pearls and posture, her perfume cutting through the citrus trees like authority. She leaned down, brushed her cheek to mine, and whispered, "So tragic, isn't it?" Her tone carried no grief, just control. She spoke of Ria's funeral as if it were a press conference. "This is about brand stewardship," she said, voice clipped. "Ria represented excellence. The community expects poise." I folded my napkin once. "Poise doesn't mean erasing a mother," I answered. Verena blinked slowly, then offered a compromise. I could attend, provided I sat discreetly, didn't speak, and refrained from contacting vendors. I said, "Send that to me in writing." Her smile slipped. "Oh, Eudora, must we make this transactional?" I smiled right back. "That's the only language you and your son seem to speak." She softened her tone, calling me dear, then murmured about keeping Caspian calm. The subtext was clear. My silence was her version of peace. "Donors will be there," she added, "and you know how gossip can ruin a legacy." I sipped my water, let the quiet hang. She fidgeted, filling the silence with details I hadn't asked for, how they'd curated the guest list, how the Times might cover it. When she asked for my verbal assurance, I gave her my line, put it in writing. Her pen struck the check like punctuation to a veiled threat. When she rose, her smile was polished glass, beautiful and brittle. I texted Atticus before leaving. Meeting done. No written terms. Documenting now. By dusk, I was back at St. Andrew's. The church coordinator waved politely, then gestured toward a folding table. You can check the current draft. Ms. Langston. The stack was still warm from the copier. I flipped through pages, no mention of me, just Verena under family remarks. Where's the mother's name? I asked. She hesitated. That's the file we were told to use. By whom? I just print them, ma'am. I took photos, cover page, footer, timestamp, stack count. Facts first, feelings later. Ushers rehearsed near the altar, moving chairs like soldiers in formation. I stood in the back, watching how power organized itself in rows and walkways. My phone buzzed. Atticus confirming receipt of preservation notices. I exhaled, steady as prayer. Then I saw it, the seating chart. 3 front rows labeled Family Myers. A pale yellow block read Reserved Media Partners. My name sat alone, bottom right corner, E. Langston, guest. Back pew. A young usher chirped, "We'll seat you near the exit so you can slip out if it's too emotional." I looked him dead in the eye. Baby, I helped her into this world. I won't be slipping anywhere. I photographed the chart header, version 2.4, initials marked CMVMB. When the coordinator fluttered back, panicked, I requested written acknowledgement of my objection. She scribbled a note, "Objection to seating placement received," signed it, and handed it over like a peace offering. I folded it neatly, dignity signed and dated. Minutes later, my phone lit with a headline, "Private Service for Philanthropist. Estranged Mother Disrupts Plans." My stomach dropped, but only for a second. Source close to the family claimed I'd demanded money and attention. I sent the link to Atticus. Defamation elements noted. I typed. Then, calm as always, I called the newsroom, left a voicemail identifying myself and my documentation. "I expect a correction," I said. One usher whispered, "Ma'am, maybe wait outside?" I smiled. "No, baby. Outside is where lies grow." I texted Verena. "Did you or Caspian speak to the press? Please confirm." No answer. Instead of anger, focus settled over me like armor. I emailed the church. Formal objection attached. Photos of everything. Seating chart, timestamps, handwritten notes. "Request acknowledgement of receipt." I wrote, copying Atticus. I even asked for a Mother's Pew ribbon. The point wasn't the ribbon, it was the record. I walked to the last pew, laid my palm on the wood, and whispered, "Lord, make the truth simple." Then my phone buzzed again, an unknown iCloud share. Sender, Rhea Langston. Folder name, Hush Harbor. Inside, a document titled Schedule A, Trust Allocation. Last modified 2 months ago. A small handwritten note in Rhea's looping script, "Mom, if they try you, use this." The sanctuary lights hummed above me as my hands trembled, not from fear, but confirmation. I texted Atticus one line, "Hush Harbor just unlocked." The morning sky over Pasadena was the color of steel when I walked into Atticus Vale's office at 6:55 sharp. The receptionist handed me a black coffee and a pen for the document receipt. Atticus already had his sleeves rolled up, glasses perched low as he connected a hardline workstation to the projector. "Let's open what your daughter left us," he said. The iCloud folder appeared on screen. Schedule A, letter to mom, Fidelity Pacific, trust intake, prenup addendum, and one labeled contingency, press. The word press made something in my chest lock tight. Atticus read Rhea's note aloud. "Mom, if they try you, use this." I kept my breath measured. I'd learned long ago that crying too early clouds judgment. He explained the chain of custody process, print, initial scan, store-sealed copies in his fireproof cabinet. The sound of my initials meeting paper echoed like footsteps toward justice. He typed a same morning notice to opposing counsel preserving all trust records. "They'll know we're awake now," he said. The trust itself was a revelation. Hush Harbor, named after those secret worship gatherings our ancestors held when they weren't allowed to pray aloud. Inside, stocks, donor funds. A life insurance policy paid directly to the trust, not the spouse. The first line under successor trustee read, Eudora Langston, Secondary, a neighborhood foundation for single mothers. The directive, support mom's housing and health first. My throat tightened, but my eyes stayed dry. This isn't probate, Atticus said, tapping his pen. Different lane, different light. We prepared a disclosure to the church and funeral home clarifying my legal standing as trustee. I initialed each page. The soft flutter of paper steadied my pulse like a metronome, keeping time with purpose. At Fidelity Pacific Bank, a trust officer in a gray suit verified the file. Active account, in good order, she said. She couldn't disclose the balance yet, but she printed a certification naming me trustee. I signed, Atticus notarized, the stamp clicking like punctuation to a prayer. When I asked if anyone else had tried accessing it, she checked the logs. No, ma'am, not since Ria's last visit. Good, I said. Let's keep it that way. She smiled faintly. You might get some pushback once they know. I brought earplugs made of paper, I told her. We booked an appointment for the safe deposit box the next day at noon. She emailed confirmation before I left the counter. Back in the car, Atticus opened the prenup addendum. A single paragraph sat in bold font. Any heir or spouse who contests any estate document loses all residual gifts, reduced to $1. Classic in terrorem clause, he muttered. If Caspian swings at this, he cuts himself off. I leaned back, picturing his face when that truth hit. Well, I said, I guess silence finally has a price. Atticus smiled without joy. We sent a neutral notice to probate counsel to circulate that clause among all potential contestants. I could almost hear the clock starting. At 9:23, an email arrived from Caspian's lawyer. Cease and desist defamation. You are not family decision-maker. Atticus didn't even look up. Send me the attachments, he said. He replied within minutes with our proof. Coordinator note, program timestamp, certification of trust, and one perfect subject line. Please correct your premise. A few minutes later, another alert pinged, an anonymous link to a PDF titled Managing the Estranged Narrative. Inside, bullet points smearing me as unstable, money-seeking, and disruptive. There were suggested talking points for sources close to the family. My jaw clenched. I forwarded it to the journalist who had published the earlier article. This, I wrote, is your source. Atticus traced the PDF's metadata, authored by a boutique PR firm Verena Myers-Blythe had hired last week. We've got them, he said quietly. He drafted a formal preservation letter demanding all communications be retained. I added, and CC every outlet they fed. When he finished, I recorded a short voice memo for my files. No public statements. Truth walks through doors with hinges, not microphones. Atticus nodded. Tomorrow's the reading, he said. 4 p.m. After the service, seconds later, my phone vibrated again. A stray internal reply popped up from Caspian's counsel. His words caught mid-thread. Who put Eudora on this? I smiled, slow and sure. The woman your wife trusted, I whispered. Atticus's text followed. Dress dark. Bring the certification. I'll bring the clause. Outside, the church bells began to toll the hour, each note sharper than the last. Tomorrow, everything would ring. I sat in the third pew by choice, not banishment. Pastor Lennox Booker's benediction floated like soft rain, short, dignified, and without drama. I didn't approach the lectern. Silence. I'd learned was strategy. Caspian played the grieving son-in-law role so neatly you could almost hear the stage directions in his breath. Verena glided behind him, steering condolences the way a maitre d' seats donors. I took mental notes, faces, glances, the quick shuffle of phones tucked away as I passed. Atticus stood by the double doors, his navy suit sharp against the cream walls, holding a thin folder, certification of trust, the no contest clause, and our chain of custody log. I texted myself for the record, entering reading room at 3:58 p.m., calm. Elevator doors pinged, clerks arrived with binders. The recorder lit red, and at exactly 4 o'clock, the intern said, "We're rolling." The probate associate called our names, confirming notice had been properly served to Eudora Langston. Caspian stiffened as if the words were acid. Ground rules followed, no interruptions, copies distributed at the end, objections logged but not debated. I turned my phone to airplane mode, voice memo running, pen poised like a witness. Atticus placed the trust certification before him, but left it closed. Timing. Always timing. The envelope seal cracked. The sound was delicate and cruel. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the corner of a funeral program peeking from Verena's tote. Edges annotated. I filed the site away. The first pages were ceremonial, charitable bequests, professional recognitions, gestures of legacy. Caspian relaxed visibly, expecting his reward. Ria's voice came through her lawyer's phrasing. Care for my mother's dignity shall be prioritized where my name is used. Even there, she'd guarded me. Caspian smirked when a Santa Monica condo passed to him for marital use. He assumed that was prelude to the flood. Verena typed beneath the table, her manicured nails keeping rhythm with his confidence. I recalled Pastor Lennox's line, "Grief is how love tells the truth." I waited for the truth to speak through paper. Atticus adjusted his watch, a signal. My smartwatch buzzed. Fidelity Pacific, suspicious login. Attempted wire blocked by 2FA. My pulse steadied even as heat climbed my neck. I showed the alert to Atticus. He raised a hand. "For the record," he said, voice cool. "Trustee has received a fraud notification regarding assets outside this proceeding." Caspian slammed his palm on the table. "She's fabricating! She's not even family!" Counsel noted his outburst. The recorder clicked, capturing every syllable. I slid my phone forward. Timestamp visible, 3:46 p.m. Minutes after the service. Someone had tried to move Ria's money before her will had cooled. Verena's knuckles whitened as she locked her screen. The attorney shifted gears, retrieving an envelope labeled Funeral Program Documentation. Inside, the coordinator's text thread, voluntarily submitted. Verena's own messages glared up. Seat EL, away from donor section. Optics matter. Caspian's head whipped toward her. "Verena, why is that here?" "Event management," she murmured. "Not malice." I noted the hour. 4:19 p.m. Placement decisions, deliberate. Pastor Lennox frowned from the corner, folding his hands. Atticus quietly stapled the printout into our binder. The chain of narrative had just linked another truth. Then came the PR deck. Atticus projected metadata on screen. Author, a boutique firm. Sponsor, Verena Myers-Blythe, dated 1 week before the service. The document name, Estranged Narrative Final. A bullet read, frame subject as emotionally unstable, isolated, reinforce legacy control through widow's household. The lawyer turned to Verena. "Do you dispute authorship?" She pursed her lips. "Brand protection requires discretion." "No denial, just spin." Atticus nodded. "That matches prior defamation," I said evenly. "My daughter's letter doesn't sound like your deck." Silence spread like frost. The probate attorney's tone hardened. "Be advised, any destruction of communications, texts, or program drafts after today constitute spoliation, potentially criminal. Copies of the preservation notice slid toward Caspian and Verena. Caspian muttered, "This is a circus." The clerk replied, "This is the record." Atticus filed a motion on the spot. I wrote in my margin, "Paper is a quiet jury." Verena requested a recess. Denied. Then the will reached its thunderclap. "Residual probate estate shall establish a charitable foundation," the attorney read, "naming Eudora Langston as founding director with discretionary authority." Caspian's color drained. "Read that again." The lawyer did. The no contest clause followed. Challenge and lose all. Rhea had signed it weeks before her final hospitalization. I didn't look at him. I looked at the date. That was my daughter's last line of defense. Atticus slid a single envelope toward me, sealed and cream-colored. "Your move," he whispered. I rested my hand on it, voice steady as courtroom marble. "Read this into the record." The flap lifted with a dry whisper, and the air itself seemed to brace for what came next. The room felt smaller when Rhea's letter began. I handed it to the probate attorney, and he unfolded it like something sacred. Atticus nodded once, recording light on. Rhea's voice, filtered through careful phrasing, reached every corner. She thanked me for never chasing status, for teaching her that grace is quieter than wealth. She wrote that her success meant nothing if it didn't protect the hands that raised me. Caspian muttered, "This is sentimental nonsense." The attorney warned him, "Sir, you're on record." Verena shifted toward the door, eyes calculating exits. I stayed still. "Let the paper breathe," I said. The attorney finished, noting Rhea's physician-signed competency letter. The ache in me burned steady, but grief gave way to resolve. Counsel recited the no contest clause word for word. Any challenge without cause dropped the claimant's share to $1. Atticus slid preservation notices across the table. Devices, emails, PR drafts, all now part of the chain of custody. Caspian leaned close to Verena. "We can spin this," he whispered. The recorder caught it. Their denial had already begun to crumble. The associate confirmed that certified copies of the prenup addendum were stored at both the bank and Physicians' Council. I jotted the time, 4:43 p.m., in my small spiral notebook, where every page carried tomorrow's proof. I spoke quietly for viewers who would someday hear this story. When chaos comes, write it down. Facts are the fence around your peace. The funeral coordinator joined by phone, voice tight but clear. "Yes," she said. "Verena told me to seat Mrs. Langston away from donors. She said it was for optics." Silence snapped through the room. "And the photos?" Atticus asked. "She said exclude her from frames unless background blur was possible." The coordinator emailed her affidavit while speaking. Texts, invoice notes, all preserved. Caspian exploded. "You're being manipulated." The coordinator replied calmly, "I just kept my receipts." Atticus printed and signed the headers. The clerk notarized. I told the listeners of my heart, if someone treats your dignity like a deliverable, document the sale. Then came the hammer. Proof of Verena's PR contract. Atticus produced payment records from Myers Blythe Holdings, LLC to the boutique firm. The slides describe me as unstable, estranged, emotionally erratic. Verena dabbed her lipstick with tissue, murmuring, "It was a draft." Pastor Lennox leaned forward, his voice like velvet over stone. "Drafting a lie doesn't make it harmless?" I met Verena's eyes. "You built a brand out of my daughter's silence." The lawyer ordered immediate litigation holds on all PR files. Verena's face stayed smooth, but her hands trembled slightly. The attorney clarified the foundation structure. Mrs. Langston will serve as founding director. Distributions are mission-bound, not discretionary to family. Caspian's color drained further. You mean I answer to her? You answer to the bylaws. The council said evenly. Pastor Lennox's name appeared as a proposed board seat. His nod carried more gravity than any applause. My hands remained folded, the quiet rhythm of victory without gloating. Atticus slid forward printed emails, minutes from a foundation planning huddle they'd held behind my back. Verina's message: appoint me brand chair, stipend optional. Caspian's reply followed. We'll need talking points to frame her as estranged. Investors expect clarity. The room went still. These predate the service, Atticus said. The clerk marked them for defamation review. Pastor Lennox spoke softly. Truth walks slower, but it lasts longer. The attorney announced intent to move for a temporary restraining order, blocking further manipulation of estate narratives. Moments later, Atticus's phone chimed. Forensics from the bank, he said. The wire attempt from yesterday traced to a co-working suite leased by a PR subcontractor linked to Verina's firm. Mireya Kwan, the trust officer, had preserved the logs. Caspian's face turned storm gray. Coincidence, he barked. Then coincidence has an IP address. Atticus replied. The council forwarded the data to the district attorney, not sensationally, just responsibly. I turned to the recorder. This isn't revenge, I said softly. It's maintenance, keeping the pipes clear so truth can flow. When we finally stepped outside, twilight had folded over the city. I texted my neighbor to turn on my porch light. The small things keep the world normal. Pastor Lennox offered me a ride. No, thank you, I said. I need to walk this out. Atticus matched my pace, briefcase swinging like punctuation. We'll draft the TRO tonight. I smiled faintly. And tomorrow we build the foundation the right way. At the coffee cart on the corner, the barista handed me a napkin without a word. Community, unspoken and kind. I didn't feel triumphant, just aligned. Justice had shape now, not sound. My phone buzzed. A new email. Subject: we withdrew our pledge after what we learned. We'd like to back your mission. Mrs. Langston, if you'll keep it clean. I looked at Atticus. Then let's keep it clean, I said, and kept walking into the cooling light of evening. Observers. That stung deeper than being thrown out. I whispered to Ria's photo in my purse. We'll keep it clean, baby. Atticus drafted the memorandum. Donors signed softly, the sound of pens replacing applause. Then came the sealed coda to the will. The attorney opened it, revealing Ria's final directive, naming me founding director emerita, with clear succession rules, no control by in-laws, a small stipend for oversight, activated only after audits, accountability even for the mother. Caspian shouted from the aisle. So I'm shut out forever? The clerk didn't flinch. You're not shut out of decency, I added. My stipend goes to the Widow's Fund. That's how we start healing. The audience, neighbors, nurses, the same barista from yesterday nodded. Ria had built law into love, and it held. By evening, the ripples reached outward. The DA acknowledged receipt of the bank's evidence. The PR firm sent a formal apology and cooperation letter, naming Verina as the client source for the smear script. The funeral coordinator received her long overdue payment and a thank you note on foundation letterhead. Local news requested comment. We issued 3 sentences about grief, governance, and scholarships. No villains, no victory laps. Caspian posted a vague family statement. The world scrolled past. Paperwork had finally outrun gossip. As night settled, I walked through the small community garden behind the center. Pastor Lennox said, "You won the right way." I smiled. Winning wasn't the goal. Clarity was. Later. I sat at Ria's grave, handed him a sealed envelope labeled Scholarship or One for the CNA who worked her last shift. I went home, tucked the Dignity folder into my safe, and added a clean, empty one labeled Mercy. When the knock came, I almost ignored it. A courier stood on the porch holding a padded envelope. Inside, a tablet blinked. Ria's recorded message began, her voice soft but steady. "Mama, if you're watching this, that means you did the hard part. There's one more thing you should know." I leaned closer, porch light warming my hands. "I'm listening," I whispered. Ria's voice still echoed from that tablet when the screen flickered, static, then a faint image of her standing by the ocean, smiling like she knew something I didn't. "Mama," she said, "what you found wasn't the whole story." The video froze mid-breath. I leaned forward, heart racing. What secret could outlive her?